Well, good morning, councillors, staff, members in the gallery and our media. Welcome to you all. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on the council's website. All care will be given to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed that you're... sorry about that.
Your phone, it's good to have it anyway.
Your phone is turned off. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who now reside in this area. I respect that to elders past and present of the Bangarang nations. I'll now call for apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors.
We've had apologies from Councillor Meagle and Thomas for the recommendation that they be accepted.
So
moved by Councillor Longway, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay.
Got the minutes?
Yeah. I now would like to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 21st of May 2019. Would someone like to move those minutes? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Wales. All in favour? Against? Carried. Number 5, disclosure of interest. We have one disclosure here from Councillor Kennedy on agenda item 10.3, Bay 13. Would there be any further?
I haven't got any other ones, so note that one.
Nothing further.
Can we get moving?
Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 6, the mayoral minute. I'd just like to be noted that the 3 councils attended the ALGA conference last week. Ran from Sunday afternoon to Wednesday afternoon. Councillor Wales and Councillor Thomas and myself. It was, I think it was a really, really good conference. Very broad, a lot of different interests. Whether it be drought, solar, future technology, you know, in relation to smart cities or smart cars. But yeah, we had an opportunity to engage with drought policy and meet with different ministers, federally, but also got a really good insight into other councils and what they were doing and their makeup. It was found it really interesting. One in particular was Diamantina Shire up at in the Birdsville area. Diamantina is 95,000 square kilometres, a lot of tumbleweed there. But there's 13 rural properties in that 95,000 square kilometres owned by 6 people. So we've got 6 ratepayers. The average property size is 2.1 million acres. Their total income, their revenue from rates is about $780,000. So, but their return to the state and the government in GDP is around $95 million. So it's just interesting how you can have such a low rate return and yet they're doing a massive amount for the country. So and their priority is roads, is a road. They want to get a road right through the Shire that people and families can go travelling there with young children and know that they can get out safely. So yeah, it was a very good conference and thank you for your company, Councillor Wales. It was an excellent time and yeah, a lot of fellowship and a lot of information sharing. So that was good. So if someone would like to move that mayoral minute, moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the General Manager's Report, item 7.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. 7.1 is the update report on Ballpark Caravan Park. So the report allows Council to have an update on the Ballpark Caravan Park and the works to progress previous Council resolutions. So just the report there before Council, some of the main points I'll just call out was will be that we had ceased the contract with Belgravia Pro, who were managing the park up until 6th of June this year. So council now are staffing that park consistent with previous resolutions, and we're almost finalised a formal process to appoint 2-year fixed term staff members into that role, and we expect that through June or July for that to occur, and that will give council, we feel, a lot more hands-on control within the park as we work through the renewal phases that are required within the park. I've also noted out there a meeting that we've held, the Mayor and I and the Deputy Mayor attended by phone, a meeting down here just after the June long weekend with 3 longer term site holders who came forward, and it was a very positive meeting. They presented their views and concerns from the group that are in that park, and requests things like the 90-day notices and where that issue is up to serve those notices so that council can work through the works that we need to do in that park, and a number of other requests and matters there that I've outlined in there. So basically the report's for the information of council and any questions, and following on from that report, I'd like to see if council would bring forward a report 9.7, which is a report in the planning section, which brings forward a master plan request that we appoint one of the master plan firms that's applied for that. So open to council to discuss this report, with the recommendation there at the end being to note the report and to note the contract with Belgravia has ceased, and to waive any fees for the 19-20 period as an act of goodwill for our site agreement holders through that 90-day notice period. So that's there for council's consideration, Mr Mayor.
Could I get a mover and seconder, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, obviously we've had quite a bit of success in communicating with the group that's now been formed over the past probably 6 months when this sort of all come to light. It did create a lot of animosity and a lot of uneasiness amongst people in the town as well as the people in the caravan park. I think that it's always going to be a very, very hard thing to do. I see, just Googling in recent weeks on the internet, whereby a recent Shire council, not in this area, closed their park effective immediately. And there was 38 annual people that lived in that park full time. So they were hit with a lot of the same sort of things that we were. Talking with the guys on the phone in our teleconference where you guys met the other day, we certainly agreed that we had to communicate right through this whole process and investigate this 90-day removal of the on-site vans. Now our staff have gone through it all, and we've looked at the different varied ways. I think we just have to be very careful about how we're going to issue that notice and to when it's effective, because the work has to start as soon as that park's clear. We can't have the park sitting there empty. That's just disrespectful to the people that are in there, and it's not showing that we're fair about what we're doing. So good that we're communicating, but I think we've got to be really, really on the ball as far as when this 90-day notice is issued, and that we're ready to go, and that the master plan and everybody's being communicated well.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. Any further comments, councillors? I'd just like to add to that we did have a good meeting, and it's been great to have that communication with the lessees of the park, and as Councillor Whitechurch says, council has is taking the opportunity to keep them informed. Would like to, right through the process, stay informed, stay in touch, and because they have been valued clients and members of the Corrigal community for many years, and we respect that. So hopefully it'll all go really well without any hiccups, and we can get back to a state where we can have a beautiful park for everyone to share. So thanks for that, Councillor Whitechurch. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
So just that request, Mr Mayor, whether the council would, whether you get a mover and a seconder and carry forward that other report to deal with that, because it does relate a lot to what Councillor Whitechurch was talking towards.
Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Against? Carried.
9.7.
So we'll just go to 9.7 on the agenda, which is the report, Ballpark Caravan Park Consultant's appointment for the Master Plan business case. Before I hand it over to our Director Development, Susan Appleyard, I'll just call out a typo that was being in the report. So on the page there's 4 firms that are listed in alphabetical order that are put in for that, to be considered for this project. The last one there is called Suitable Park Solutions. It should be Sustainable Park Solutions. So that's just an auto-correct, sorry, for councillors. We just want to make sure that was clear. And this is an open session report. We've got a recommendation there that the staff have done the assessment and are recommending a firm. If council want to go into any of the details of the pros and cons of the other tenderers, would obviously defer that to closed session, but we consider the information here now is quite okay to be discussed more broadly around the timing and things like that that the Councillor Whitechurch had talked to. So yeah, I just wanted to hand quickly to Susan if you'd give an overview of the process and the council.
Thank you. This followed a very similar process to a normal tender, an amount to tender limit. We've got requests for expressions of interest and quotations. As you can see, we got 4 submissions in. All of them could have undertaken the work. They all had suitable experience. It came down to money and the amount of experience, and also probably the main awarding factor was that one of them had outstanding experience in dealing with cramming land and caravan parks. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I might get a mover for that recommendation if I could. Councillor Law, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Whitechurch?
Yeah, sorry again, Mr. Mayor. Going back onto what I said there, and now that we're looking to move forward, I see in the report that there's a 12-week time frame for the master plan to be carried out. Again, being very critical about how we deal with this, I think it's important. And if it sees fit that the project can start, let's say a week before, Christmas or something like that, I would like to think council isn't as silly as to drop that 90 days so it falls there. Take advantage of the holiday season, and the sake of 3 or 4 weeks is not going to make any difference. Those people that are going to want or have to get their vans out before then that don't want to come at that point will obviously have done, and those that want to get the last use of their van over a holiday period probably can. So I think it's really important that we think about how we're going to start the project. We know it's a big project, but let's be very considerate and make sure that this is done properly for the sake of everyone.
With this particular part of the process, it's just developing the master plan, so there will be no site works at this stage. There will be site investigations, so there will be people on site to check out what facilities and structures within the park now, but there will be no works as such. The 12-week period is to get the plan out on exhibition to the public. So we're probably looking at around Christmas before we have a finalised plan.
Thank you. Councillor Whitechurch?
Yeah, so again, Mr. Mayor, the main question that keeps coming up from a lot of the annuals, in particular in the caravan park, is when is the notice going to be issued? I'm not sure if we are aware of that, or whether or not we're going to wait and see whether, at point we can issue it.
I'll just say that on that.
Yeah, so the notices are almost ready to be issued. We've just been waiting on making sure we tie up the previous contractor's exit. So they officially ended on the 6th of June. We're just waiting on some paperwork to formalise their exit as per the contract arrangements, and then the notices can be issued. So yeah, there was some good requests from those representatives about delaying the issuing of the notices to allow all the master plan to occur. There's a few issues around that. Obviously, the longer we leave the issuing of the notices, the people have been screaming out for a bit of certainty around the process. So we've had a number of early movers have already looked at other parks, have sold vans, have got vans for sale. We've been strong in our communication since March or April saying we're going to issue these notices so that people do have a bit of certainty there. But I think underlying all that, regardless of the timing of the master plan, is that we do have a lot of risk in that park, not only with the trees but with the existing configurations of all those sites. So whilst it'd be good to just keep delaying in some ways for the people that are still in and hope that it gets through Christmas, I can't see that as a genuine way forward for council at this stage, because we just need to deal with what we've got in front of us, and I think the sooner we do that, the sooner we can get the park fully operational again, the better. But I do acknowledge that the good representations they've made around those processes. But if we weren't to start the 90-day period until, say, 12 or 15 weeks after the master plan, I mean, we're into next year, we're into next June, the pool's open, we've got half a park. I just don't think it's the right way forward for anybody. But, you know, there's some really good will there through the group to actually have ongoing meetings, which we'll commit to. And certainly once the master planners are in the council, we can be, you know, having some more informed meetings with that group to understand what the 90 days looks like. And the park's never going to close, so it's not an issue about, obviously, to them the site is their site, but the park's not going to close at all. So whilst there might be a huge disruption for those people, but the park itself will still be operational. We've had requests from KVE because they're a big event next March, so they're already making good inquiries about what that looks like for them. It'll certainly be a fully operational park, you know, because they do come in with their own things and go again. It's not an issue in that regard. So I think we've just got to be mindful of keeping that momentum going, because that's what the community, I think, expect now as well, for us to be, you know, moving forward pretty quickly. And to me, the 12 weeks was a good thing. I saw that as being a fairly accelerated program to lead a fairly high-level report that, you know, dictates the future in there for the park. So yeah, I think that's probably where we're up to. But, you know, in essence, I think we need to issue the notices and then work through from there. So.
Okay, Councillor Moore.
I agree with the manager that the sooner it happens the better. This council seems to be dragging the chain on a lot of jobs that they've been doing, and the public are noticing this, that how long it's taking us. If we leave it till Christmas, then they'll want another 30 days, and then it'll be March, 90 days, and then it'll be Easter, and they'll want to do that. They can take their vans away and they can bring them back to a site if they still want to come, but we've got to get rid of all the rest of the stuff that they have there, their laundry troughs and their wash-up sections that they've got, their refrigerators, all the things that they've got there in the park need to go, so as that the park can be cleared properly, and I'm all for the sooner the better.
Thank you, Councillor Longley.
Yeah, it's all right for Councillor Law to say we've been dragging the chain on this. This is a corridor problem that we've inherited. It's been buck passed for years in the past, and it's all about corridor. I'm just a bit over corridor at the moment. Federation Council. We are Federation Council. I asked 18 months ago for an investigation for a caravan park, Memorial Park in Howler. Doesn't get on the list. It's all about corridor again. Where is the fairness in this? There's 7,500 people live outside of Corridor, and we're all dominated about Corridor. We talk about pool, the caravan park. The rest of the towns are all missing out.
Would there be any further conversation, councillors? Any comments, questions?
No, just
Councillor Watcher.
just to confirm what Councillor Law had said and Mr Butler, I guess I weren't saying that we delay the project by any means. I was just making sure that the process, if we're going to move fast, and I will agree with it, is that we have got a system flowing. It doesn't get to a point at 12 weeks and then a month after that people have asked to have all their stuff out, and then we find that we're going out to tender, and that's 2 months, and we've got 4 months of empty park. Make sure that the timeline's all systematic and it's all going to fall in place. I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah, and of course, as we all know, we have to address the safety issues around the park, so all good. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
So now we'll just drop back to our agenda format, please, councillors. So it takes us back to 7.2, Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, 2019-20 determination of councillor and mayoral fees. So once again, the tribunal set the range of fees, and the recommendation there is to note the report to apply the 2.5% increase to the councillors' payments and to apply that to the mayor's payments as well. And it just lists out those dollar amounts there for councillors to consider that recommendation.
Could I move for that recommendation, councillors? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire.
I'd like to take the opportunity, Mr Mayor, if I may, at this time to once again establish the fact that I think the increase is $300, is it, for general councils or something along those lines? I mean, really, if we under comment for so long over the river, what the Victorian councils get, I mean, we've harped on this and harped on that. You think they're generous in what they're giving us, but at the end of the day, we do it in a voluntary manner with the passion that Councillor Longley explained there a couple of minutes ago. So yes, we do these sort of things for the benefit of our community.
We do, and Councillor Longmire, I couldn't help but note, it all falls back to numbers once again, with population numbers, which, as we've found in recent times, it's not all about numbers, it's about what your business does for the state. And so if you're looking at rural and regional, the quote rural and regional is probably holding us back in such as if we're in the same tour as the metropolitan councils. We know there's probably similar work involved. It would probably bring you back in a bit more stead. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly that's up for a review again this year. We made that report last time to submit that Federation, there's a number of other councils up north similar size that requested that they be going from rural to regional, and the government did not accept that. The tribunal considered the categories are up for review again next year, and I think the councils across the state need to really band together and reflect not only the work for merged councils, but councils now are expected to do 2-3 times what they would have been up to before, as well as spreading across a lot bigger area, and the requirements for increased training and availability and even the things we're dealing with, with council putting through some big long-term projects. I think it's really on councils through country mayors and LG New South Wales to really work hard to increase not only our category, but generally the effort the councils put in there to be recognised.
We work under the same legislation as the metropolitan councils, and probably a consideration for a motion for the conference. Okay, any further questions? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
7.3 is a report on the provision of expenses and facilities for the Mayor and the Councillors' policy. So this report is fairly brief, but it just provides a bit of important context and some additional paragraphs recommended into our policy to give some better clarity around councillors' eligibility to claim, which they quite rightly can, reimbursement for travelling back to council for meetings and other council business. So the recommendations there before council.
Could I have a move and a seconder, please, Councillor? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments there, councillors? Councillor Wales.
Just thinking, Mr Mayor, in relation to the word coming back from a work location, would that be fair to say that if you're away, not actually working with, like, you could be on holiday somewhere and you might have to come back for a very important decision with the council? You come back, like, you might be down elsewhere, holiday down there, you come out of council. Sorry, would it be fair to just put in work/away? You're not necessarily working, but you do come back in your back game. You get what I mean, do you?
I get the point for sure. It's like a personal, whether it's just a personal trip, isn't it? Right,
Holiday.
Yeah, depending on the location you're at the time when that you're called. I just wondered, would the General Manager have a comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, this only arose through an example where we discussed it and we wanted a bit more clarity around it, and it was from a situation of work away from home. So I think we just still treat them all pretty well on merit, so it becomes pretty clear on that. But yeah, if you're away for an extended period on a leave of absence, you've probably been granted that leave from council, so you probably wouldn't be expected or required to come back for those things. But yeah, I think it's all about just case by case in a way for those other areas.
Councillor
Mr Mayor, obviously with the policy, it's I've come across it through my line of work and whatever, but as Councillor Longmire said, we've got a massive land mass that we're trying to look after, and despite a recent submission to try and get some revenue to cover some of the costs, it's not so much the $100 worth of fuel that affects you either. It's leaving work 2 hours early. In my situation recently, I was in 2 hours away in the Gambie, where I still am now. You leave 2 hours early to get to a meeting at 4 o'clock, and then you're leaving at 5 o'clock the next morning to get back on the job site by 7. You've got time, you've got loss of wages, the whole time. The fuel thing's quite minor, but I just don't understand. I understand the need to have it audited and so tight, but as Councillor Longmire said, the piddly amount of money that's given monthly, you're miles behind, you know, you really are, and that, you know, you've got to be so tight on this now.
How's the feeling? Is this covering, well, unfortunately we were at Alga when this was workshop, is this covering the needs? Is this where you got to in the workshop?
Look, again, it's a situation where I'll have, quite often on site, is we've got 500 litres of fuel in the car, diesel and petrol on site in jerry cans. We're working remotely, which quite often Stratbogey a month ago. I fill up out of the work thing, like getting the receipt's not that easy at Stratbogey, and if I've got fuel sitting there in a fuel tank, I'll fill up out there before I go. So it's, in a lot of cases, it's just going to be a case of, I don't worry about it. You know, it's not worth the trouble.
The other one, Mr Mayor, there's just been a recent report from Victoria Auditor General on about 3 councils that just selected down there that's, I only looked at it yesterday, that's looking at that exact issue and how many councils have got adequate proof or documentation of claim for receipts, fuel, credit cards, the whole works. So it's going to come through our state because we're now under the orders because of the State Auditor General, but I think it came through pretty clearly. An example of that is about logbooks. So if you have those other examples where fuel receipts and cards don't work, it's about having a logbook. And even some of their examples where they're paying at the maximum rate, but they actually didn't check the litre of the car and what it was worth. So it does sound tick-tacky, but it's all about perception. It's about public perception of what the councillors, and they don't necessarily realise the amount of what councillors do and do forego. And I think we need to be really careful that I know in this policy and the state talk about making sure we're not discriminating against mothers, so having childcare available and disabled provisions and all that, but I think we need to be careful we don't discriminate against workers. Otherwise we're only going to be aiming for councillors that are all retired, and there's nothing wrong with that either, but I'm making sure we do compensate people that are still in the workforce. I know other councils have done night meetings and things around that, but you still got to get back to them. So I think, yeah, there's ways we just need to keep improving our ability to defend that public perception persona. I think that's the main.
And if I could just make a comment, as I said, I wasn't at the workshop, but I was just wondering, like, to take any of the clunkiness out of it, if it was, there's always already a rate per kilometre allowance in the award. So I just, like, when you've got to confirm whose card, you know, where the money goes to, etc. I don't really, I think there's any need to go into who spends the money. Like, from once you're paid, it's probably no one else's business who you've got to pass that money on to. That's your own arrangement. So I'm just wondering why we don't stick to what's already there in the provision of the kilometre rate, an agreed kilometre rate, keeping a logbook as to the trip, pay the kilometre rate, and then the dispersal of that money is up to the council that has received it. And I think that allows the general manager to have the conversation. Well, okay, well, this is the kilometres. I think this is a fair situation, and it keeps it pretty streamlined. I just wondered, had that came up, or was there any thoughts against just what we've already got in place? Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, in the journey that I've been around council, it's been a basic rate, but however, they've now identified on our form, our claim form, that there's 2 rates available. Depends on the size of your car, which is relative. I think that's good stuff. Perhaps if we look at the kilometre rate there that covers all bets, meaning that if there was an opportunity, I'm not sure, Mr General Manager, if that's attainable, that you can perhaps increase the per litre travelling and keep the logbook. I've kept one for years, and it does work. I think it's a simple way, and I think it's not a bad way.
And I'm just thinking that kilometre rate would actually compensate a little bit for time as well, as the fuel that you're putting in the car. I just think it's already there.
That's
so
the way to go.
Councillor Whitechurch.
Mr Mayor, I appreciate you were absent from that discussion regarding the council payment on travel. It was actually pertained to my situation, and I myself suggested that it was a little bit over the top, that I was going to travel 200 kilometres back for a pool meeting at 70 cents a kilometre. I myself thought at the time that 200 kilometres at 70 cents each way, looking at 400 kilometres, was way above the fuel that I'd used in the car. And that was how this whole conversation started. I didn't want to be on a money grab or, you know, bid to be, although that's what the award and the condition of policy said. But yes, you're right, there's a lot of other things, you know, councillors that do work. I know from, you know, looking for herself and Councillor Kennedy, you sacrifice a day's pay when you're a worker to come to council today, and you sacrifice at least another 4 to 6 hours pay through the month out of your salary.
So I think just to clear up the Mayor's thing, the existing policy covers the per kilometre rate to be used, and this is just allowing for another option to do the fuel, actual fuel. Oh yeah, so the issue was about your home location. The per kilometre rate only applied to the home and not from your work site.
Yeah, that's right. And
that's where.
If I can get Mr Mayor, and that was where, I mean, I've worked away for the last probably 11 weeks. My home is from Monday to Thursday night is Stratbaby and Nagambie.
Yeah.
I'm home on the weekend. That was how it all come up. As to, you know, do I have to be home to claim it? So it was the hard one, I think, I guess.
Yeah, understand. Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, I think in a commercial basis, and it's relative to what we do, if you employ somebody that comes from Albury out to the farm and to do an opportunity, whatever the kilometre rate that you end up paying as the person that's getting the service done is based on the fuel, the cost of the car, on the hour or whatever it takes for the person to come out. It's all relative. It can, under that structure, the commercialism, it just works, and you pay it because that's how it is. And it's the same with bets and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with us. I think it's a simple solution. If we can, you know, go through the award and put it into position, if we're eligible, Mr. General Manager, to be able to work out, we'll workshop it and see what we reckon's fair and lock it in.
And I think also the importance of that particular councillor to be at that meeting, like, okay, is it relevant that he's there, or if there is a need to be there, can that meeting be moved to another date? But if it's that important, I think, well, and it interferes with your day-to-day life, that is your particular place of residence at that time. And if the council's feeling that, okay, per kilometre, at least it keeps it clean, but there's always a scope to reduce the kilometres if anyone, you know, feels the need to do that. But I'm just thinking it's already there. So anyway, that's just my 2 bobs worth. Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, at the time you're right. It appeared that there was, at that point we had pool meetings, which I was the chair of, so I had to come back to. We had a couple of meetings related to the skate park and different things. It's not all the time, and councillors aren't working away all the time, so I was probably a little bit apprehensive and concerned about the amount of travel that was happening at that point. This month it's once. So
yeah,
you know,
and Councillor Whitechurch, when I say that, I'm thinking of futuristic stuff.
yeah.
And I totally agree. At that time, it was very worth your while coming back, because they were massive items that we had to deal with that are going to be important for the next 60 years. So I think that little bit of freight travel we're talking about is probably irrelevant. Any further comments, councillors? Do we have any direction on where we should go with this? Are they? Okay, good. The General Manager's on it.
Say now.
So we've just got an additional one there. The council is also eligible as an alternative to claiming the per kilometre rate as per the local government award. So, like Councillor Whitechurch said, he was more inclined to use the actual expenses of the fuel and not trying to go for the kilometre rate. And that is more in line with using your own car, that bottom clause, because it does cover other wear and tear. But I think what the Mayor was saying was, well, that's up to the councillor. If he's got a work car and he claims the full kilometre rate, well, that's between the... but it's up to council each time, make sure that they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And when it's in our policy, it becomes a public document that is open for transparency and review each year.
Well done.
Who was the
We had
member?
Councillor Wild and Longmire, so you okay with that addition?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we?
Absolutely.
Okay. No further comment? Okay, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.4 is a report, the Australian National Audit Office, audit into the procurement of strategic water entitlement. So it is a report for information. It's only a brief report in what's written here, but there's obviously been a lot of focus on strategic water buybacks, especially leading into the last federal election. So that's just for the information of council and councillors, and I know there's another few other reports and things underway with surface water plans across the BGM, the Murray Rivers, but that's just there for council information and noting that is underway.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.5 is a report leading into this year's annual conference, Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. So recommendation there to note the report that it will be held 14th to 16th of October, that the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the GM attend that conference, and the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor be the nominated voting delegates, and that Council finalise any motions at the July Council meeting for consideration.
I'll move it, please, councillors. Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
7.6, as a result of that report, is recommending that we defer the October Council meeting that was to be held on the 15th of October to put it back a week later to the 22nd of October, and the workshop.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
7.7 is a report on the draft Murrumbidgee Surface Water Resource Plan, which our Director, again, Development and Environmental, Susan Appleyard's been across this, and I know some councillors may wish to comment. They did attend a session on this project. So it's currently on public exhibition. Recommendation there is to just note that report, but happy for comments either from Director or councillors.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Question or comments, please, Councillor Longmire.
Yeah. It was pretty well attended meeting. Councillor Longley also attended at his own opportunity. But in purpose, Water New South Wales, and I'm only speaking as a layperson, Director Appleyard would certainly be able to fill in any details in procurement and all the rest of it, but the presentation that was done, and it's quite confusing, meaning that with the water allocation or the water resource, all these words that you have to get your head around, and I'm talking about water resource plan components to consultation, diversion, sustainability, sharing, entitlement, a whole raft of things that become confusing in the process of you had to sit there and concentrate, and for me, that's hard, but at the end of the day, it really took some evolving to be able to understand it. And it was quite interesting to note that the limitations in this procedure is by the draft Murray-Darling Basin Authority plan. It's the overrider, and so Water New South Wales are going around representing, obviously, the state of New South Wales, trying to get an understanding through consultation and research which way the penny should drop. And so it was quite confusing to be true. Obviously, to do with the Yanco Colombo Billabong allocation. I'm not sure, somebody may be able to help me in this. Is there a collective group of representation from that organisation? Councillor Burke, you might know.
There are only community groups, as far as I'm aware, that they were going to form a committee before the elections, and I recently got an email to say that committee looks like being formed shortly. But other than that, it's just public groups and councils that are representing the voice, really.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it may have been. So really, for our benefit, it was that end of our shire. But the other one that's coming forward is the Murray opportunity, which is to be conducted. One of the meetings is at Howlong on the 3rd of July, I understand. An afternoon meeting, I believe, 3:30 till 5:30.
Yep.
I think that's need to be, and I know. And the other one is that certainly to be of concern in this council area is the water sharing opportunity, which was invented many years ago by the state Labor government at that time for the 016 aquifer out that where there was entitlements that were drawn down to the tune of 60-odd%, which affected many, many people. That didn't happen on the aquifer under the aquifer for groundwater I'm talking about, aquifer 015. And so I do understand that in the MDBA plan, which is to be announced in 2024, that will be an occurrence that will be looked at. And so for these people that have got centre pivots, certainly east of the Federation Way, it's for their benefit that they go to that meeting to get an understanding. And so I think that's important. So, yeah, that's my report on this pretty confusing thing to try and get your head around.
No, that's very good, Councillor Longmire. Susan, would you like to comment?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've been through the document for the Murrumbidgee Surface Water Resource Plan. The main area we have to be concerned with is the unregulated part of the system, which covers basically from the Yanco offtake and parts of the Billabong Creek, which are the creek systems that actually feed several of our communities. We're not a water utility, but for this particular document, but Riverina Water, which supplies the water to those towns, is a water utility for those towns, and we need to ensure that there is a good water supply for our towns. The other issue I have with the report is while it links to the Murray-Darling Basin Commission, it only does so in several areas. It doesn't cover off everything we need to know. There's some glaring omissions in it. Also, it has a very strong focus on our water utilities and our stock and domestic rights, but the secondary what's the word I'm looking for?
Uses?
Yeah, priority
Priorities.
is for the environment, and then it goes down to our irrigators and our farmers. So I think we need to have a look at that. I'd like to see the councillors have a look at this in the workshop and put forward a submission. Can I ask the two councillors that attended, were there many farmers in the room?
Yes.
Yeah, I would suspect the room would be mostly farmers, and you make a very good important call, if I may interrupt the Director with a comment. In regard to the priority of water allocation, its priorities Indigenous water, environmental water, and thirdly and lastly is productivity water. And this is alarming, and no one's trying to grandstand on this situation, but effectively for the communities that rely on this water, to make a living for the communities to survive and the rest of it. That's what the thing's all about, and that's why people are up in arms a bit about that allocation right. So, yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Thank you.
There was and I can't remember the acronym, but they were obviously irrigators from the Yanco system.
Yeah, tap.
That's it. And they were up and about. There were quite a few of those asking questions, firing it in, so they were the dominant players of the day, as was in the first meeting. There are a lot of Murrumbidgee Council people there that had their logos on. And I've got a feeling that we should be represented there as a council, employees and councillors. I think we ought to stick our head in a little bit more seriously, actually. I think we're underrepresented.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire.
As I said, I'd like to see in the workshop this afternoon, councillors put together a submission. I've started a draft on the key points. With YACTAC and the old Catchment Management Authorities or LLS projects, there was a Billabong Yanco project, and a lot of the information that was in there, especially about the ecological communities along those tributaries, there's none of that information in this document, and I think it's lacking in a lot of areas. And I'm not sure how many of our ratepayers in the north actually know this has happened, and I think there needs to be their voice.
If I could make a comment, it's a comment in a question. My understanding is at the Murrumbidgee takeoff, it's already regulated to a degree. It's a fixed level. So when you've got excess water coming down the river system, it goes over that weir at various times and out into the Yanco-Colombo system. My understanding is they want to try and increase the level of that weir so they can control those peak times when the excess water is not needed. That sounds great to do that, but then you've got to have a guarantee on how much water is still going to go and remain in the system, and I think that's the dark spot in all this is people having confidence that they will have exactly the same water. There will be, for all the various needs of the stock and domestic, town water supplies, the environmental, the health of that system. So whether that can be, that to me is where the crux of the whole issue is.
some of the councillors in the room will have known that in 2014 there was a huge issue arise with the offtake that was going to be upgraded at the Yanco, and there was a couple of other projects, and there was very little community consultation about those. This document is actually silent on that. The other thing that this document has raised is that the water quality and the health of those particular creeks is poor, fair to poor. And that's where a lot of the drinking water is coming from for our town. So I think, as I said, we really need to be the voice for our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, certainly. And I've added a point here for Councillor Longmire and Kendi to consider that we do. I just added the extra on about lodging that submission before the 14th of July, whenever it's due. And then the Murray River one flows on after that. But we do have to make sure, and just a quick point, it came up really clearly because the government will be great at diverting things and saying, well, that's related to, the regulator issues related to in-stream flows and this is a surface water issue, but when you go all through that document, it talks about the amount of gigalitres that would be catched on a surface thing, so it's totally related, but they'll be trying to sort of, because these are complex areas, and they'll be quick to sort of point out, so we need to really work hard, like Susan said, to represent our communities on that and understand what the issues are. But when we went and tried to get some water out of Big Lake Urana to put into Town Lake, so we needed 800 megalitres from 80,000 megalitres. It was surface water on private land on Lake Urana, and the government in Dubbo said that there's no legal framework or mechanism to transfer that water into the town, and Susan Lee right down all agreed it was a no-brainer to be able to do. There was no environmental impacts, the farmers were on board, and that would have restored water into that town for a couple of years or more, just for the amenity, for fish, other things, and there was no legal framework to get through. So certainly there's, and that's not just about that area, but there's certainly too many restrictions in place now on the flexibility, and the environment getting a focus above primary production. They're too quick to delineate there are two different things, and all the forums you go to that's more balanced say that there is a balance there between both, and they both interrelate, and they're quick to say that primary production is down at number 3, and so it doesn't leave much opportunity there, I think, for production water, unless all those other boxes are ticked, and I think they've just got the bar too high. So,
Mr Mayor, just another comment, if I may.
Councillor Longley.
When you and I attended the last meeting, Jerilderie, the lake was near empty. It was full. Absolutely full.
At Jerilderie.
At Jerilderie, yes.
Yeah, it's full at the moment.
It's full at the moment. So somewhere along the line they found water to be able to fill their lake. Where it's come from, who knows? But I noticed that, and I thought, well, why can't Urana get water to fill their lake?
Yeah, the water for Jerilderie Lake, Susan will correct me if I'm wrong on this, will come out of the Billabong on that
regulator.
Yeah, so, but water fed from Combo Yanko system joins into the Billabong, and that's where the water come from. And they would have had a licence in place to grab the water. Yeah. I would imagine Council Longley.
Maybe Miss Appleyard might be able to divert the water somewhere else and put it into Lake Urana.
I think she'd have the ability to do that, Councillor Longley.
Lunchtime?
Sure, lunchtime. Councillor Longley.
If I may have the right to reply by moving the motion, Mr Mayor, in regard to the activities that the representatives and very intelligent people from the Indigenous opportunity and the environmental area, and they're up and about on the front foot. Don't worry about that. They're leading the charge in discussion. I think that's where we need to be very proactive with some understanding and knowledge, which Director Appleyard has certainly got, in so much as, being on where we're coming from, absolutely, to represent the ratepayers.
Yeah, we found that with the Wiradjuri people when we had a meeting in Narangara, that they were all over it then. Yeah, so that's great. All right, if there's no further comment, would the councillors be happy with that addition?
Yes, thank you. Yep.
So I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
That's it for GM, so over to Director of Corporate Community.
Thank you. Joe.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The first report here is a statement of the bank balances and the reconciliation as at the 31st of May 2019. As detailed in the report, Council has current cash holdings of $38 million and $29 million of that is restricted for specific purposes. The recommendation before you is to note the report.
So moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried.
The next report is the schedule of investments as at the 31st of May 2019, so totalling $34 million. Again, the recommendation is that the report be noted.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Agenda 8, item 8.3 relates to the delivery program and our budget. So the draft 4-year delivery program and annual operational plan, the draft 10-year long-term financial plan and the draft revenue policy were placed on public exhibition in accordance with the Local Government Act. So to give you a quick recap, those documents were prepared to deliver on the community strategic plan, our community, our opportunity. There's many significant community projects across the Federation Council area, and the four most significant of those community projects are the Corowa Swimming Pool, the Howland Multipurpose Hall, the Urana Aquatic Leisure Centre building, and the Mulwala All Abilities Playground. We've developed a balanced budget, so just balanced, so there's not much room there, and we've provided for a 2.7% rate increase across all rating categories and across our water and sewage charges. This $36 million operating budget provides resources to continue delivering the range of services that our community expects, including maintaining roads and bridges, collecting and disposing of waste, providing water and sewage services, as well as supporting a range of community services such as libraries, mobile preschools, and the parks and gardens across the Federation Council area. I wanted to say thank you to the councillors and community members who attended a community session, or multiple in some instances, during our recent budget roadshow. We had 6 sessions conducted, and a total of 49 community members attended those sessions and participated. Submissions to the budget closed on Thursday last week. At that time, we had 5 submissions received. And to quickly summarise those submissions, there was a request for some funding for a storage shed and a concrete path for the Miranda Bush Entertainment Centre, improvements for the old Corowa Road at Mulwala, the construction of a concrete footpath from the Mulwala Canal Bridge to the north section of Lang Street, Mulwala, the establishment of an outdoor community gym in Mulwala adjacent to Purtle Park, and some additional funding to be provided to the All Abilities Playground at Purtle Park in Mulwala. So they were the 5 submissions received. As detailed in the attachments that came around with the papers, a recommendation has been provided to you on each of those. The basic premise behind those recommendations was about maintaining the balanced budget. So you'll see that there is no, in the recommendations, I haven't recommended that Council commit funding resources to those particular projects. In summary, where it's relating to road or footpath infrastructure, the recommendation is that the Director Engineering Services consider those projects in his forward planning. So, for instance, in his footpath renewal program, consider how it can accommodate some of those requests within an existing budget. For the remainder of them, which primarily relate to additional community assets, the recommendation is that there be some follow-up on other grant opportunities that may be appropriate to deliver those particular community projects. There were very short time frames between submissions closing at 5 p.m. on Thursday and getting the agenda papers out to you on Friday and then meeting here today on Tuesday, so that has made it more difficult to provide you with a more comprehensive response to each of those recommendations, but what we've tried to do is to make sure that we're factoring those into our future planning. So that's the premise of those recommendations. There was one late submission that was received late on Friday night, and which I want to draw to your attention. It was requesting 3 particular things, and they're not things necessarily requiring budget allocation, so I think it's worth bringing them up to you today. The first is about the recognition of the village names within the entire council area being included in our planning and operational documents. So to provide some context, this comes from a resident of Miranda and there was concern about some of our documents not including some of the names of the smaller villages in our planning. So we'll have a look at our documents we are preparing to ensure we are seen to be inclusive of the smaller communities as well as the larger communities across the council area. The second item requested was in relation to the recognition of Indigenous people in the area. So requesting that the Wiradjuri people be recognised as well as the Bangarang people, given that the Wiradjuri people are related to the northern end of the council area. So we will investigate what the appropriate recognition requirements are and provide a recommendation to council at a future meeting. The final item in this one was in relation to village plans. So they're requesting that a Miranda strategic plan be included in our council documents and that it be such a plan be developed. So the writer of the letter has offered to prepare that based on their qualifications. I propose that we consider this in our future planning for our villages and look at what the best way to deliver that is. There was also a communication from the Mulwala Progress Association that went to all councillors, so that was about 2 weeks ago. It was in relation to rate increases, so I specifically wanted to mention that today, given it was about rate increases and the rate increase is contained in the budget that is recommended to you for adoption today. The basic premise of the summary of the letter is that there was a view that the messaging that went to the community members was that with the amalgamations there would be rate freezes and that rates would not increase, and that's not the experience that the Mulwala Progress Association has seen. At the end of the letter, what they're actually seeking is that the council adopt a fairer rate system and that council includes that in the rate harmonisation project that we will be delivering later in 2019. So I'm recommending we include that piece of communication for that particular project. I also should note the email from Councillor Longley. So there were some requests for some items to be included in the budget. Having just started 2 months ago, I wasn't privy to that list until yesterday afternoon. I can confirm that some of the items that have been raised in that submission have been included in the budget. So in particular, the increase in the Parks and Gardens budget, the correcting of the handicapped access in Balkan Street, Mulwala, and the traffic management around the entrance to Low Square will be incorporated into the planning for that particular precinct. So I can confirm that those are in there. The balance of the items there I will need to take on notice and provide a more detailed response after speaking to my colleagues. In addition to those submissions that have been received, there's some small changes proposed to the fee schedule, and they relate to additional items that have been identified by council officers as needing adjusting in the final budget for 2019-20. So the recommendation before you is that you note the report, consider the submissions that have been received, and then in accordance with section 405 of the Local Government Act, adopt the integrated planning and reporting documents as detailed there in front of you.
Well, councillors, can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. First of all, I'd like to say, well, congratulations. That was a massive effort for you, Joe, who's hit the ground running with our finances as a new director, and the work that's put into this budget. But to return a balanced budget is unbelievable in a merged council. Yep. So I think that deserves a round of applause. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kennedy.
We attended one of the meetings, which was in Mulwala, and I just noticed on the submission there, like, obviously they didn't submit one, but there was a big issue there in Mulwala about drainage and clearing guttering in the back streets. Well, not the back streets, only one street back from the main street. Now, and Mr. Carmichael said they're going to do a a plan. We sort of need to know if, because Moala is so flat that it actually drains away from the lake. That's the problem with the town of Moala. And there's some elderly couples there. They said the kids can't even turn up and park at the front of the house because there's a gutter full of water. And there was a few questions which were raised. I wonder, you know, if there's anything in there about doing a study on the drainage of Moala, because there's bits and pieces done all through the township. Every town's the same. They're all got gutter here on one side, nothing on the other side. All the water sits that side. You go through there now, there's icing on the side of the street in the mornings, last few mornings, and the other side's dry. And there's some big questions where we can get some money or funding or something to try and get these things finished. Like the half patched up job, you know, someone's at a subdivision, they've got to pay for the gutter out the front, that stops there, bang. And then you've got council land, which has got nothing. You come on the main street of Moala, it looks very ordinary. One street's done because obviously people want to pave one side, had more money, and that we just sort of got to, you know, even Cora, I noticed coming today, some of the back streets of Cora, one side's got curb and gutter, one side hasn't. You know, it drains across. There needs to be some money sort of allocated sooner or later to get some of this stuff done.
Yeah, thank you. And of course that would be ongoing progressive works, that sort of, that planning that's needed there. But yeah, that was a hot topic, wasn't it?
It's certainly an issue that we're aware of, and we have started in the 3 towns actually along the river here. We've started work in that area. It's a huge job to do, to bring it together for an overall integrated plan, and that's what's been lacking. We've done piecemeal bits here and there, so we did one for South Cora last year, which has given us some direction there. We've done some work in Mulwala, which is north of the canal and west of the railway line. But that area in the main area needs a study as well, so I believe we've got enough money to do that this year. And also at Howlong we've started some work there, some preliminary work.
Yeah,
we've got the same problems there as well. Yeah. And it needs an overall plan before you start going any further with it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you, Steve. Councillor Watts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I just wondered, I can't like about the big drain from the cemetery of Mulwala. What's happening about that one?
Again, that's one that's included in the study we've done, and there is a proposal there to fight that. So, again, we're just tying up some bits and pieces. We also did some traffic study there at the entrance into Tallis and that area, whether we can. They came back and recommended we did some roadworks there, which I think are a little bit over the top from my perspective, that maybe we don't need to do as much there. But certainly, again, it's one that's on our
priority.
It's on our high priority to do that. Yeah.
Councillor Longwood.
Yep. Ms Shannon, thank you very much for the increase in the Parks and Gardens budget to $183,000, 10%. Great. I did notice though that $100,000 was allocated in the last fall for RSL parking in Cora. I was told on Saturday night that I represented the Mayor of the Lions Club handover, and a Cora resident came and saw me, and we started to talk about leases and so forth, and he said the only reason the Cora RSL Club is not maintaining that going forward is that they can't get a lease on it. But that's fact or fiction, I don't know. But then for $100,000 for that park, I think it's over the top. I had a look at it this morning. I don't think there's been a fair allocation. Low Square was allocated $8,000 out of that total allocation. I noticed, has there been any money given to Careen? I think they're the only sporting club or sporting group that doesn't get any money from council. So we haven't seen the breakdown of where the money's being allocated these days, and I have a perception that it's Corowa-centric.
We need to, well, obviously going forward we can get some reports eventually together as to where money's being spent around the different recreation grounds and try and get a good general feeling around that.
And certainly, Mr Mayor, the 355 review, and I don't really care if it doesn't bring in Careen and Rennie because it'll all come in because they're all rec grounds, but the 355 review where they are involved heavily in running grounds is bringing that to the fore, and that includes Howlong, but it also includes plenty of the other areas that do a lot of different work, so that's underway, and we've got some feedback even on some of those budget nights about where that's up to, and So we're looking forward to workshopping that back through councillors to understand, not only make sure they know who their delegate is and they let them know when their meetings are on, but making sure they can understand what service levels and expectations are. When you build up a reserve to a fairly high standard, well, it's going to cost more. Well, who does that work? So I think there's a fair bit of work to be done on that. And obviously this afternoon we're getting our CT management briefing on our long-term plan, and it sounds like we're doing planning, but it's critical work because we had that much trouble getting the budget to balance this year. And some of the things in Steve's area that I would have loved to have kept in was on drains and footpaths and gutters in Mulwala and places like that. So obviously, the challenges are there with our infrastructure renewals and new ones in some areas, but yeah, it's all ahead of us. We need to make sure we can do it in a more structured way. But yeah, those equity issues about who's doing what and how many volunteer hours are there versus that, it's going to come forward in a good way, I think. Make sure people understand what they're getting at.
It'll evolve. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire?
If I may, Mr Mayor, have the right to reply again?
Yes, you
With
may.
2 comments.
Yeah.
Three comments probably. Once again, applauding Director Shannon for a great job done. That needs to be repeated, and you were quite correct in your assumption. Secondly, the 2.7% increase is across the board, whereas before under the administration day, and I'm going to say this because effectively it was so wrong, that the former Corowa Council farmers got hit in 1 year 14.9%, which encased the residential about 2% and the businesses 1.8%. So the fairness is in what's been presented at all these budget sessions, which the General Manager always identified in the ones I attended, that it was across the board, and that's so important. That's what the thing was supposed to be like when back in 2014 we increased it by 7%. So that's really great. And the other one is, if I may, with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, say that in regard to Councillor Longley's passion in regard to all Corowa-centric and not so much Howlong, well, if we look at the attendees, the community members in attendance at the meetings, Corowa certainly must be happy. They must be getting a lot of money, Councillor Longley, because there was no one attended. However, you must be pretty happy in Howlong because there was only one attendee. So we had none, you had one. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. If there's no further comments, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Would someone like to move
Morning tea.
into... Yeah.
Councillor Longmire, yeah.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Very good.